Hey guys, Kyle here. So, just before the show starts, I wanted to mention our Patreon. You can pay us $1 a month as a thank you, as a tip. You can pay $2 a month to get access to one of our bonus content shows, episodes 2 days early, and a secret Discord chat where all of our Patreon donors get to go and hang out and talk with us directly. Then there's a $5 tier that you can donate to get access to a whole bunch more content. We have multiple bonus episodes on there. So please check it out. Patreon.com/itgetsweird. We don't advertise, we don't make money. So check it out and throw some money if you think that would be cool. Thanks.
Hello and welcome to It Gets Weird, our comedy show where we explore the unusual, the unbelievable, and the unexplained to try to make your world a little weirder. I'm Nile.
And I'm Kyle.
Hey,
And
Kyle.
Niall, this week I was sort of supporting my favorite
Cult?
cult, I guess. Yeah, one of my favorites for sure. I've got my Heaven's
Uh-huh.
Gate shirt on. I have no idea if that, like, I guess what I'm trying to do here is I'm hoping that was like maybe sort of a slam dunk for like whatever you brought to the table this week, because I'm not doing any psychic bullshit today, so I don't have like a,
Oh, wait,
Pat
you're not still
Price
in Psychic
t-shirt.
Winter?
Well, not when you're doing the episode.
Okay.
To be fair, we'll see what happens next week. There is every possibility that, I mean, look, I could pick like 4 or 5 random characters that have been mentioned on my SRI episodes and have not been covered yet. So, who knows? Or maybe I'll just curveball you and we'll just do Bigfoot again. I'll just be doing
Yeah.
a Bigfoot thing.
Just straight up Bigfoot episode. I look, the fact that you did Psychic Winter kept me from doing my my idea of JFK January, which we might do next year. Just a month
shit.
of
We have to wait a
of-
whole
of-
year now?
Look, there's June and July. Like, we have options, but JFK January sounds the best,
When was he assassinated? Like, what month? Do you remember?
It's
I really don't
believe
remember.
I believe it's our date of birth on Twitter. So you can check the It Gets Weird Twitter for
Well, it would be fortuitous if it was June or July, because then,
yeah.
we can do it near the anniversary. We can have it kind of have that alliteration going on. It could be really, really fun to talk about a presidential assassination.
Yeah, July 25th, 1990 July 25th, I believe is the date.
Now, your episode wouldn't happen to have anything to do with like cults or aliens or Nikes or anything like that. Or is that Heaven's Gate? Heaven's Gate was the Nikes, was it? Or was that on?
I believe it was. I believe they were one of the sneaker ones, I believe.
Yeah.
No, the episode today, we're
Okay.
going to talk about aliens. It is an alien thing.
I love it.
I got into this. This whole episode came from me trying to. I have in my brain that I want to do a like galactic orders, like fucking like galactic governments or kind of episode at some point, but like finding, because that's such a nebulous concept of like, there's like the Galactic Federation of Light and the like Council of whatever, like there's all these different ones, and I was trying to like find a way to do that, make that into an episode, and I happened into a what turns out to be an Ancient Aliens guy that I hadn't really spent much time with, that has kind of a twist to him.
Now,
we'll
when you say Ancient Aliens guy, you mean somebody who appeared on the television program Ancient Aliens, or like one of the old heads that like helped like spearhead making that movement more mainstream throughout like the 70s, 80s, 90s, and today?
So he is a more of a colleague than I honestly, he only has one scripted television appearance on on like a 90s, I think, show called The Unexplained that was
yeah.
It's that one that with it, like every, like all the people that you're that it would be weird to have on a show, like wouldn't be surprised if like fucking Richard Doty shows up on that show. Like it's that kind of people.
I want to. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. But I just wanted to say, speaking of Richard Doty, I messaged you the other night because I found myself in a Twitter or X, whatever. I don't know what they're calling it. You go to twitter.com and you
Yeah.
get to the website, right?
I was on
And
twitter.com last night.
I was on it today. Would you believe that?
Yeah. I would.
It's a bad website. One, let's get that out of the way. But two, there was somebody hosting I think it was supposed to be a like live podcast because it said like episode 1 of, I don't remember the name of it. And I don't really care. Because we're, let me put it this way. Let me start off by saying if it is a podcast, we're way better.
Yeah.
Just for me listening to that. But this podcast had people on that were like UFO and disclosure true believers. And one of their guests that was speaking on this like Twitter space, X space thing was Richard Doty. And what I found, it was super bizarre. It was very bizarre because like, first of all, now I follow Richard Doty on Twitter, which is not as fun as you'd think it would be. But it was Richard Doty and fucking that guy Keemstar, who I know nothing about other than like once a month or so, he like does something that causes Twitter to explode and hate him or be angry at him or whatever. I genuinely know nothing about this guy. And I'll say it here. He didn't sound especially informed on ufology in that podcast. So it kind of left me wondering why he was there. Cause it wasn't like it was a very strange thing that I was just sitting in on the other night. I don't know how to explain it, but it was really stupid. And I mean, it was just Richard Doty just weaving more stories and telling all these like UFO people like stuff they want to hear, basically.
Look,
so
the man has carved a niche for himself.
It's true.
So we're not talking about Richard Doty today.
Oh, okay.
We're going to talk about a guy named Robert Morningsky.
Is that his real name?
No.
Okay.
Well,
I mean, just checking,
look, who this man is as part of the fun of the like is part of the why this episode exists.
Okay.
I can't. Okay. Let me just go. I have this laid out in my notes, so I'm just going to get into it because otherwise I'm going to keep giving prefaces and diversions and shit without.
Well, we really could just do an episode that's one big preface,
Yeah,
that could be kind of fun.
I think that's how some of our like multi-parters, the first episode feels, where you're like doing like their childhood and like the fucking.
Well, sometimes people want to know what notable fucking faker, schemer, psychic fraud Uri Geller did when he was a child. So
they want to know what government organization contacted them when they were a child and told them they were special.
Exactly. So sometimes it's important. Other times you can kind of gloss over a lot of the childhood, like, oh, they played hoop and stick before they saw a UFO. Whoop-de-doo.
So luckily, in this case, there's not a lot known about the childhood of this guy. I couldn't find much. I could only find what's in his books.
No Mr. and Mrs. Mayflower or whatever his name.
Morning Sky.
Morning Sky.
We'll get into this. This is just so okay. Like I said, I was trying to get this going and talking about a bunch of like galactic civilizations and societies and factions and all that shit. And that kind of led me into I found this other guy that I probably want to do an episode on at some point. But I found this Reddit post that was kind of outlining his whole thing, and they basically boiled it down to he basically just repackaged this guy's work, Robert Morningsky, but was also being like basically catfished by a quote unquote angel on Facebook and being given messages. Like it was this whole thing that I now need to do a lot more research on. And this other guy, that's another episode that's upcoming.
Catfished? So
someone was posing as an angel and delivering messages to this guy through Facebook.
But catfish sort of implies that the angel's like, oh, you're so sexy, haha, I want to suck you.
I thought catfish just meant
angel.
like, you could just you're not representing yourself correctly for like.
Oh, maybe I always thought had it like it was like a faking date, like faking like romantic or whatever interest is how I've always taken it, but maybe I'm wrong. I mean, I guess it works.
Yeah. Regardless, this person supposedly has gotten maybe multiple times different people have impersonated angels or alien beings and like hoodwinked them on Facebook. So I need to do more research on that
Hey,
guy later. That's
hey,
gonna be
sup?
another
This
episode
is
coming down the
Ezekiel's
pike.
wheel. Just hitting you up. Wanted to see what you were up to. I'm doing angel shit over here.
Yeah, tell me about like the coming cataclysm or some shit.
It's gonna be a good one.
Um,
I've been listening to God over here and God talking about this one. It's gonna be good.
yeah. So almost as more of like a background thing, I ended up looking into this guy, trying to do this other guy, and this guy was so wild on his own that I had to just kind of turn
Table it.
in and talk about because this guy came first.
Yeah.
So Robert Morning Sky, his big work that you'll find everywhere. People talking. He did get swept up in that whole Haley Bopp comet thing in the '90s, where all the
Now
conspiracy people.
that
Which
is a connection to
whole other
Heaven's Gate.
episode. Yes.
That is
Uh,
a whole thing, and that was maybe Art Bell is slightly responsible for that. That show is maybe a little responsible for drumming
there
up
is
some
audio
stuff
on the Art Bell archives of Robert Morning Sky talking the Haley Bopp comet on Coast to
Oh, then
Coast.
I've heard this dude because I've listened to the whole Hale Bop saga. I've definitely
Okay,
heard
then
this
you
dude
probably
at
have
some
heard
point.
this audio.
Oh,
Do
shit,
you remember
okay.
a man who was who probably would have been described as a Hopi or Apache shaman? Or
Yes.
okay, that's Robert Morning Sky.
Okay.
We're gonna talk about
Oh.
Robert Morning Sky today.
Excellent. I didn't know, like you kind of get a lot of things presented as sort of matter of fact on that show. So I don't know much about this guy for real. So I'm curious what you found.
Okay. So for those people that aren't aware of this man, let's just start there and talk about who he is. Robert Morning Sky, he is, if you find his like bios online and stuff, most of the times it starts off with some version of he is a dancer. Because one of his big things is doing traditional Native American dances and at powwows and at conventions and stuff, because
Okay.
he's very
Respect.
he's very into Native American spiritualism and shamanism and stuff.
Can I ask something that like I don't mean it in like a derogatory way, but like, is this guy like, do we know that he's actually Native American? Because
Let's leave that for a little later.
Okay, because I had a sneaking suspicion because I've run into people, not literally run into people, but like I have found people online who are sort of taking that title,
Kyle,
and maybe not being truthful.
Not to spoil things,
Okay.
but towards the end of the episode, I did find a forum of Native American people that basically were just
Okay.
like talking about we're just like railing against
About how this guy is a fucking faker.
not an established member of any
wow.
of the Native
Yeah.
American nations that he.
This is a new age thing and a UFO, and this is delicious. Thank you.
Yeah. So this guy's big work is called the Terra Papers. The Terra Papers is a even what the fuck this book is confusing, because I've got this later. We're gonna keep moving. So the Terra Papers is made up of two sections. The first of which is about kind of the history of the global the galactic like kind of wars and stuff, and then the second book is more about the secret history of Earth. But they both in total are approximately, I think, 60 to 70 pages total. And so like it's the whole, I'll just say this right now, the Terra Papers is on Kindle Unlimited if anyone wants to just go read it. It's not long. It's very dense, but it's a quick read. I didn't read the entire thing, but I read most of it. Turns out I can confirm there are people that talk about him as basically lifting a lot of Zecharia Sitchin's work.
I was gonna say, when I think of Ancient Aliens, the first name that comes to my mind is Zecharia Sitchin. So
Yeah, I'm for our bonus series. If this is a thing that anyone is interested in that they don't know about, on the bonus feed right now, I'm working my way through The 12th Planet, one of Zecharia
Is
Sitchin's books.
is like the concept of ancient aliens ubiquitous enough because of the TV show that like we wouldn't have to just stop and explain what that means when we say that term?
Uh,
Do you think?
we don't need to right now because I'm going to get into this
Okay.
guy's theories and we will talk all about that stuff. Um, but the funny thing about the Terra Papers is if you believe him, he originally submitted this as his scholarly thesis whilst pursuing a religious studies degree.
Right. So I'm guessing from where this content goes, I'm going to go ahead and say that that's not true.
I cannot verify it in any way, shape, or form. He never
I'm
states
guessing
his college.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm guessing whatever university he would ever if he were to give out a university name, I'm guessing they would not be able to confirm that either because I sort of doubt that religious studies will accept ancient aliens theory.
They would have about as much record of him as the Hopi Nation. So, the
Oof.
if so, there are people that will nutshell him as Zecharia Sitchin cloaked in Native American appropriation,
Mm.
and there is something to that probably. But he was quoted in 1995 describing himself as such: "I am nobody. I am not a shaman, a medicine man, a guru, a channeler, or a psychic. I am not an ex-intelligence officer of the CIA, the NSA, the Secret Services, or any other branch of any service. I am not the reincarnation of an ancient being, an ancient deity, or a heavenly visitor. I have nothing to offer you in the way of credibility. I am a nobody."
So
And I like it that way.
that's kind of interesting because like what this is attempting to do, what
Mhm.
this might appear to be doing to an outsider is like sort of negatively associate yourself with like some big time shit,
Mhm.
like by, oh, I'm not these things, but like you're thinking about me being associated with those things, of course, because of how important my work is. But the reality is like people like this, when they're writing stuff like what I am sort of predicting you're going to tell me about, do have a tendency to become turned into those things by true believers who discuss this stuff online. So, it's kind of a multi-purpose thing there. I think
Look,
that's
he was
interesting.
trying to sound humble and that he's just his own thing and everything, but it is the most oh my you guys are asking a lot of questions that my shirt is answering moment, like
Yeah.
that statement is just like, wait, you're not what?
Can
Are
you?
you sure?
We got to get shirts that say like, I am not a shaman. I am not a CIA agent. I am not a
Yeah.
reincarnated ancient being, and just have a whole list. But I'm nobody, and I'm damn good at it.
Yeah.
Or you could have all of those qualifications and have like and who loves to grill or something. Like I am a
Yeah.
CIA agent, shaman, healer, reincarnated ancient being who loves to grill on a Wednesday and has the most amazing son of all time.
You need to add to the beginning of that, instead of I am, it needs to be my husband is,
My
and
husband,
then you get
yeah,
it, you
there
get
we
that
go.
going. There
Yeah.
you go.
Hey, we have another shirt idea for when we inevitably make shirts happen for It Gets Weird. That's a
Fucking
good one.
So is the It Gets Weird t-shirt brand just gonna be like shit posting? It's
I mean,
just gonna
some
be
of
like
it, sure.
conspiracy shit
That's
posts?
I think that's a good shirt. I would wear that shirt like immediately. That's a great idea, I think.
Oh
Um,
man.
Cool. We'll have to remember
So that last line, that he's a nobody and I like it that way, it seems to be very true. It's maybe one of the more true things he said, because I could not find a lot of biographical information on this man whatsoever. The only stuff I could find comes from like his talks and his like he controls the entire narrative of his upbringing as
You
far as
might,
I can tell.
if you want to unlock his true story, you might have to Rumpelstiltskin him and try and find his true name.
Yeah. I don't think I actually have. I don't think I have his real name. Because like this guy's been around for a while. Like I tried to piece together a kind of a timeline of his stuff, of like his story, because I was just there was this gap. There was like he supposedly wrote this thesis in the late 60s, and then tried to present it to academia, got rejected, tried to present it to the UFO community, got rejected.
Mm.
And in one case it was as like blasphemy, and the other side it was oh, you're just telling fun Native American folk legends, is what he claims that the UFO community turned him away about. Um, but then there's this gap. And as far as I can tell, the book The Terra Papers was published in the mid 90s. So for a book that was originally supposed to be written in 1960, in like the late, for some reason in my head it's 68, but it's just late 60s. And then it did nothing for so long. And there's things in the book that make me think it could not have been written in 1968. I'll tell you that much. Spoiler alert: he puts the fucking Death Star in it. Um, so
So that kind of dates it to at least after a very specific date, right?
and you might say, "Oh, Nile, you're being kind of ridiculous." Does he have just like a big space? No, there's fucking pictures. There's drawings in the book, The Terra Papers, of which there is a straight up Death Star depiction in multiple drawings in this
Oh,
in this text.
okay.
So it's thinking of it being like it. Basically, what I'm getting at is, in some way, shape, or form, Robert Morningsky is kind of claiming that Star Wars stole from him. He's not claiming
Okay.
that really, but if you look at the timeline that he pushes out there, he is. So that's for to go up between him and LucasArts, I think. So I did find the main biographical details I found came from an interview write up that I found on Bibliotheca from 1992. The interview was by Sandy Vanderstraten, I believe her name is. She had a meeting with him in Queensland, Australia, and he claims that he was raised by his two grandparents after his father was killed and his mother left the reservation he grew up on, which left him from the ages of 1 to 5, where he had no contact with the white man at all. So he was taught only by his grandfathers and raised with a group of other young people. And he also was supposedly raised by a group of people that they called the Star Warriors, which he codenames Blues, as the alien race, the Blues, which is
Okay.
it's a whole fucking thing. They're kind of like Greys, but different. His Greys, it's because he has a different thing for Greys, which we'll get to. So they kind of serve that purpose of being the kind of peaceful race. So these people taught him to run 6 miles with a full mouth of water and not choke or spill a drop.
Oh,
And
I
then
can
they
do
would-
that. I don't. I can do that.
But then can you return and spit the water out at the feet of the warriors?
I don't personally know any
No?
warriors, but all I can say is present them to me.
Checkmate, atheist. So
Yeah.
he also had to like stand with his back to their elders, who would be wielding bow and arrows, and they would shoot bow and arrows at the children, who would have to turn around and catch it mid-flight. And so like this is his version of I went to the army brought me in for special training when I was a child,
Mhm.
it's kind of yeah, he was training with the fucking Star Warriors. So then once he moves on to talking about his grandfather's alien encounter, which we'll talk about in a little bit here. But like that is all you get from his childhood. There's like nothing until he's submitting his thesis on the universe at some random university for his religious studies degree, where he's putting forth his Star Wars fucking Ancient Aliens text. So that already is like quite a life if you take him at his word.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he was thrown out of his program and everything, and that was kind of the end of him there. So I found some details about that gap that I was talking about, because as I was trying to place this, like the timeline of all of this, the alien crash that starts all this stuff, which we'll talk about in a little more detail in a bit, with his grandfather, took place a month after Roswell. So that's the
Oh.
beginning of this whole thing. Then he was born sometime after that. lived with the alien and these Native American people for 5 years, and then at some point in the late 60s entered a religious studies program, submitted the wildest thesis in the history of collegiate learning, and was drummed out of academia. Then around 1970 he takes to the UFO community thinking that they might have more of a, be more into his ideas, and he gets shunned out of there as well, and he gives up for 20 years after feeling so frustrated at the rejection that he said that he couldn't even look at a UFO magazine or like study, like he just couldn't do anything with academia or aliens for like 20 years until his grandfather died in 1995, which is when he picks up again at, or sorry, 92 I think. He dies in the 90s, and his grandfather on his deathbed says, try to get my story out there. And Robert Morningsky vows on his grandfather's deathbed, the man that raised him, to spend a year trying to get his story out to as many people as possible, as a touching thing for his grandfather. And that's when the Terra Papers seemingly got actually published, self-published, but actually published, and was burst into the world. But he basically backdated it to like 25 years previously.
Okay, interesting. That's what, like, does it appear more or less disingenuous to like claim that you witnessed a UFO crash like closer to the like supposed famous crash of Roswell, or like if it's further away, like is that more believable? Like what do you think?
I think so. He's based out of like Arizona, so it's like both close in time and in geographical location. So
Okay,
it kind of
sure.
fits into like, oh, there's flying saucers in the fucking desert and shit.
Maybe you have an answer for this, but like if these papers are like, you say these papers seem to like, they claim to have been written all the way back in like the 60s or whatever, but have a lot of indications that they weren't. Why even lie about that? Like, I don't really like, why not just like be like, oh, these were written on this day, not like, I don't really understand.
Why claim to be a Native American shaman? Like, there's a lot about this guy that I don't fully understand. It's part of what makes him interesting, and was part of what drew me into researching him, because it seems like he could have done the same thing with a lot fewer steps and gotten a lot less yelled at. But I don't know. I don't have a really good answer to that.
All right, fair enough.
Another weird thing that I just like, the subtitle of his book seems to have kind of shifted over time. And not in a major way. This is just a thing, like, I see people talk about like how like YouTube thumbnails get updated for like SEO, and it almost feels like he did the same thing.
Oh,
where
yeah.
It was originally like Terra Papers, the hidden history of planet Earth is one of them, but then there's also one that's like I don't know. There's just like these different variations on it that you'll find when you look up the Terra Papers, and I don't fully understand where it comes from. As far as I can tell, the actual book, which I actually kept just the whole book up. It's all, you can also read it on archive.org for free. So it is readily, it's one of those texts that is pretty readily available. There's no written subheading on the actual book, so I think maybe that's why it gets changed around a lot. All right, so let's get into the actual story here. That's all the background, and there's more to it. Oh, there's one other thing that I forgot to mention. Another reason why I honed in on doing this guy specifically is because for some reason, the Terra Papers got logged as a book on Amazon approximately in the middle of last year, and that coincided with a lot of the articles that I was finding, which were very samey, including some that I have a pretty, I think, a pretty good idea that they're AI generated. I think there's some of that stuff going around there too. So what I'm getting at here is there seems to have been, I don't know what this guy's doing right now, but starting in about August of last year, he seems to kind of be pushing back up again and kind of like he went away for a while after his push in the 90s, and then he came back for a little while um, in the early internet days. But then this he seems to be going for a resurgence right now because there's new shit that's taking in and kind of reinterpreting the old information again, which is weird because at some point on his website, which I wasn't able to verify, but I listened to some podcasts about this stuff, and they found in 2021 he had a point on his website that kind of pushed away from the alien stuff and kind of was like, oh, this was based off of faulty assumptions at the time, best information at the time, yada yada. I've learned a lot more. But now it's part and parcel in all of the stuff that's written about this guy. So like, I don't know what that like. This is the kind of stuff that just kind of brought me into this and was fascinating to me because I'm trying to figure out what the fuck this guy's doing right now.
I mean, it almost sounds to me like, because like I feel like lots of people are trying to hop on this current UFO craze, which like, so maybe it was just like in 2021 or whenever the retractions were being made, you know, he wasn't like maybe he just didn't see the future of being a UFO guy. Which like I realize even in 2021 we had like some weird bullshit surrounding UFOs.
Yeah, like
coming out
videos and stuff like that.
Yeah, but the last year it's like way crazier.
It's way more aliens now.
Yeah,
like UFOs was really big, but we're so I wouldn't be surprised. I really should have searched him with like most recent fucking see if he had any comment on this stuff, but I didn't find any.
Well, and it's like what I find so flabbergasting about the current UFO. I don't want to call it a flap because that's like sort of a different thing in my mind. Because like a flap implies people are seeing UFOs. I don't get the impression that anybody's seeing fucking shit, and there is less than it's like zero evidence being brought forward of any kind. Even like even people bringing forward like quote unquote evidence that turns out to be fake is so immediately like swallowed up by the deluge of bullshit information that it's just like there's nothing to go on with this like current UFO thing other than the word of like an ex-military guy and a couple other like intelligence and military people. But there's literally nothing. Like there's not even like a shit. Like obviously there was the leaked military footage which came out a few years ago and like was also from years prior. But beyond that, there's fucking nothing, and it's so weird, and it's all built up on fucking nothing at all.
And then the Eraserhead baby showed up in Mexico.
And then yeah, that's right. That whole thing was hilarious. I mean, it was like the most obvious fake bullshit, but like that was at least that felt like something that could like spur on, like a bunch of goofballs talking about it. But it's so, like I said, it's like so immediately swallowed up and it's I don't know. It's weird. This whole situation is stupid and weird. So
yeah.
But
anyway,
yeah, maybe he has something to say about that stuff.
I'd have to look. His website absolutely sucks and is unnavigable. So
it sucks, you say. Googling right now.
It's robertmorningstar.com, and or Morning Sky, sorry. Robert Morningstar is an entirely different guy that has ties to others. Like I had like two red herrings that I came into, and that one of them was finding a guy named Robert Morningstar, and the other one was there's two Betty Blands involved. One with the was a president of the fucking Theosophical Society, and the other one transcribed shit for Robert Morningsky, and they're not the same person.
Just to be clear, Nile, I went to the website and I immediately got an answer of what he's up to. It does say, I have been silent for a time working with our elders to plan what we can pass on. I am pleased to begin again. So he's busy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he's starting up again. He's like, which, so like he got the pre-pro going because the Amazon push and everything started about 6 months before that. He had new postings January 2024, but there's nothing like, there's no content. It's just him, it's stuff like that.
Now, why did he deep fry these images? I'm sort of wondering. Like this entire website is just a series of images you can click through.
It's so bad.
And he has definitely, there's some weird, funny compression stuff. I think he didn't like scale his images properly when he like cropped them and things like that.
It's
it's a little
it's
awkward.
just it like there's no layout. It is just you have
Ooh.
the only way you can navigate is by hitting next,
Yeah.
and it'll take you to the next page.
This person, I mean, I'm assuming he made this website himself, and I really like this page. It's you have to click through 4 5 times, but it's just him, I think, in Native American dress, and he has 4 orbs surrounding him.
Yeah.
One is that is clearly like a Google Images result for the pyramids, and then the other 3 images are like really blurry, low res mounds. And
Yeah.
like, yeah, this web. I don't know what you're talking about. This website is awesome.
It's if you like a certain type of like bad early internet, that does scratch an itch. I will give him
Oh
that.
yeah,
But like, so what you're seeing there is effectively a slideshow of different places he's gone and done his traditional
right.
Native American dances at like holy sites, at like natural monuments and stuff. That's like Native American sites and stuff. So he does that. But in terms of his whole thing, um, basically the gist is big galactic war, these big alien races that are kind of there was this truce between two of them. It broke apart when a new one came up, and it's this whole faction war, and they're fighting over Earth because it is a younger galaxy, it's a younger solar system, and so it still has a lot of resources and shit. So this is like this fully goes into the like rulers of Egypt helping with the helping build the pyramids and the Sphinx, like all of
Yeah,
that shit appears later on in his book.
the
um
classics.
so it like if you're aware of the kind of Sitchin esque, but he also gets in like some holy blood, holy grail, divine femininity stuff in there too. Like it's a real fucking like Da Vinci Code type stuff. He really kind of has a smorgasbord of every like secret society corroborating with aliens thing all mashed into this, hung on the Sitchin frame, and then dressed up with dancing. Um, so in his version, our galaxy is called Eridanus. Various kingdoms have risen and fallen in the history of the galaxy. And no single empire has endured very long until finally two uh, very powerful empires, one older literally called the due to the sound they make because they're the reptilians.
Oh,
See,
that
they're the
that didn't
snakes.
quite pick up on your mic. That's interesting.
Yeah, this is. I'm sorry to everybody for the audio feed, but the actual if this is it's 4 capital S's in a row. It is s, and then eventually because as they kind of grew, it became st. Uh,
Okay.
4 S's
Okay.
hyphen capital T.
Okay.
The other one is the Ari race, which is more mammalian, less like reptilian. And they eventually, as they kind of conquer, because they are become like a more powerful race in the galaxy, they become Ari dash on, aka Orion, aka Aryan, because this also has
Oh,
Sitchin's love of etymology. There's
okay.
etymology all over this fucking stuff. So if you like words, you probably won't like this because it's not going to make any sense, but they try. Um, so you have the St and the Aryan are the two kind of leading galactic civilizations, and they are basically they have an uneasy alliance for quite some time, and then they eventually end up kind of engaged in a war over Earth around the time of like ancient civilizations and stuff, and you get the like the Anunnaki show up in this stuff and they seed the earth, but they're the good guys. And they're the opposite of this other race. They're the Aryan they're like enemies. It gets all of the stuff. All the favorites are here. I'm gonna like This episode could just be, the ticker tapes things they do for the old like CD box sets where it's like all the hits of the 70s are here and it just puts
Yeah.
names up the
Yeah.
screen. It could just be Syrians, Orion, Anunnaki, ancient seeding of the alien of the human race, slave planet. Like it
Yeah,
could just be
that's
all of the fucking hits going up as you go through here.
that would be an easy video to make, is just get footage of this guy doing a talk and just put that over it. That would be a good
Yeah.
way to sell this stuff, I think.
Yeah. But like I think the falling out had to do with like a galactic trade lane, if I remember correctly, where they got control. One faction got control over like a good trade route in space that happened to be around Earth, I believe, and it kind of led to, because like this whole thing is they conquer the galaxies, they take all the riches and cultural artifacts and take them back to the home planets, have these fancy museums. They're basically the British Empire. And they like this kind of pisses off some other people and it starts this whole war thing. And they seed the planet. They then get into like this was the funny part, because I've been reading the 12th Planet book, which is all about making the case of the Syrians and everything being the ancient Sumerians and not Syrians. What am I saying? Ancient Sumerians and everybody being like descendants of these god beings and everything. And it is like the same as a lot of the stuff in this. When he starts talking about Marduk was the actual like first son, and like Enlil and Anki and all this stuff, like it just copy pastes so much of what Sitchin writes. Which I don't know if Sitchin came up with all this stuff. Like there's probably predecessors before that. It's just the point that I know.
I'm
So
sure things were lifted, but like I cannot stress how much of this area of bullshit in ufology and new age stuff is just straight up plagiarized from ripped from other people.
Yeah. So like they eventually, with all of the trade route and everything, develop a big laser beam that can destroy and disintegrate solid objects. This is the Death Star. They make the fucking Death Star, and that leads to them to take control of the solar system and start to kind of harvest from Earth. That's kind of the beginnings, and that all dates all the way back to like legends written on Babylonian clay tablets. He tries to like bring that into it. It's all of that kind of stuff, and it's just, I'm trying to remember where some of the stuff diverges, because you get oh, that's okay. So the Greys. The
Okay.
Greys
I know them.
the Greys are actually a kind of byproduct of the reptilians.
Oh.
He calls them originally Chet-C, Tchet-C, but they eventually become Sheti, Sheti, and they are effectively reptilians who lived in like small caves and underground dwellings. So they kind of started to take after like cave lizards and were kind of emaciated and gray. So that's how you go from reptilian to your traditional gray aliens, which is I don't think I've heard that one before. That was
no,
yeah,
that's
so they basically
new to me, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's coming from somewhere.
yeah so the Sheti, the Greys are your evil Greys. They're the ones that are working with the Aryans and trying to, they're still on Earth to this day working their machinations and shit. And then there's the Blues, which is his like nice Greys, like he kind of separates the two. And the Blues, because there's some talk of like I don't know enough about the actual Hopi traditions to say any of this stuff. He uses the blue stuff because it relates to certain prophecies and ancient Native American beliefs that he claims relate to these things. So he uses the blue because it's supposedly linked to a thing from Hopi Native tradition that I cannot verify if that's real or not. Um, so that's why the blues are the good ones. That's one of his distinguishing factors here, as opposed to some other places. Um, so like there's a bunch more that you get into. He like I said earlier, he digs into a lot of the like Holy Grail and like Christianity stamped out this ancient feminine based religion thing that all of those kind of like Knights Templar conspiracies talk about and everything. Cause he grafts onto that as well in the end of it, which is kind of a weird turn because he gets really into like that's the evil version. Like the Syrians, who are one of the are tied with the villainous cabal in this stuff, basically created all Earth religions, and is basically responsible for all of that false belief and rejecting the divine femininity, which a lot of the stuff dealing with the divine femininity sounds very strange on his website with in terms of like it's that kind of thing where it's so reverential about womanhood that it comes off really misogynist,
Oh, sure. Yeah. Easy to
it's
do in this sort of corner of the internet, I think.
yeah, it's kind of weird. So I'm not going to go too deep on that stuff. That seems to be where he's turned recently. There's a lot more about that kind of stuff in his recent writings than earlier on.
To be
Because
fair,
early on, yeah, what?
well, I was just going to say, to be fair, the whole divine feminine, divine masculine thing today is pretty fucking weird. So,
Yeah, and like I'm sure there's other things out there, but like the way that he brings it up is just very strange every time it comes in because it just sounds so like watching people from the 1950s talk about women. It's not great. Um, but they do. What was I getting into? Oh yes. So there's the whole divine bloodline thing. Uh, so he sets up all of the Christian religion, all the other worldly religions, up to be the devious works of the enemy. But his whole thing about like what he gets almost into something that is like Starseedy esque when he talks about medicine men and shamanism in terms of like he talks about these like bird feathers and passion. Like okay, that's a weird sentence to say. Let me make that make sense. So he views shamanism and being a medicine man as not as a thing where you're a healer or a storyteller or whatever. It is you living in and tapping into your kind of divine passion. He uses the word passion a lot when talking about these things. That is like the term for like what you tap into when you're doing basically your true purpose. And that's what a shaman is for him. So he is a shaman because he is living his passion. He also, now I don't know if that has to do with the dancing or not. Like it's he seems to try to like break down what a shaman is from the traditional construct, but then also tries to look like what a person who doesn't look into the actual Native American stuff would think that would look like. Like he tries to have it both ways of breaking down what a shaman is, but also trying to look like the most stereotypical version of that thing.
Sure. I mean, that way he can rope in his new age types while also, trying to, I don't know. I guess he's not necessary. I don't know. Is he trying to like cater in some way to like Native American people? Like, does he like, I guess I
don't
just,
think
who is this
so.
for?
It's for new age types. Like
Okay, so it's all so like yeah, I guess like as a new age person, you'd be like, oh, I'm a big dumb idiot, and I like the idea of it being like detached from like like from this particular meaning, but also I do need to see him do the classic shaman bit.
yeah.
I don't know.
So yeah, like as far as I can tell, the Native American population, at least the ones that I read their board postings on newagefraud.com or .org,
Okay, that's interesting. It's
did
kind of
not
telling.
seem to think that he was representative of any Native American organization or group at all.
Called up the
Um,
Hopi. They didn't know you.
straight up. There is a, let me find the quote because you're not,
Oh,
you are
nice.
so fucking
Perfect.
close. Here it is. Let's see. Okay, the truth. Number 1, morning sky is not Hopi. This is from um it's a summary written on a site called
Ooh,
ufologyexposed.blogspot.com in 2013 that goes really
that sounds
deep,
like a
and
good website.
it's where I found the stuff from the New Age fraud, which is it's where I found that stuff. So it says, number 1, he's not Hopi. Robert Morningsky has claimed to be half Hopi on numerous occasions. The Hopi have never heard of him and deny his UFO story. I checked out Morningsky through personal contacts. The Hopi are a small, closely knit tribe and would know either Robert Morningsky or his grandfather.
I went to Hopi
Morningsky,
country and nobody knew you.
straight up, that is a citation in this takedown of this man.
That's funny.
Also, Morning Sky is nothing like an actual Hopi last name. This is their words, not mine. Morning Sky is clearly a New Age imitation of Plains Indian names. So he got the wrong tribe and is doing a bad job at the naming.
But
is
to
what he said.
a white person, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference.
Basically,
Yeah.
That's kind of what he's made his nut on all of these years. He also has like worked. The funny thing is, I guess there's like a couple of these people in the UFO and New Agey community, and they like part of the expose is his association with these other quote notorious frauds, such as Oshina Fastwolf, and Robert Franzoni, aka Ghost Wolf.
Never heard of these people.
The Hunbats men. Yeah, these are all just different people that I guess have Native American stolen valor in the UFO community.
Hunbats. What? Wait, the Hunbats men?
Yeah, the Hunbats men, an Anglo-American who passes off Buddhist beliefs as Mayan, is what they claim there.
Oh, weird.
So, yeah. So yeah, this is he. I think he. I'm trying to remember. I think he's like, you can find very modern stuff on YouTube with him because he still does talks and everything. But a lot of places will like, he seems to be one of the lesser known people from the initial wave of like ancient aliens type peoples. Like, because when a lot of people would liken him to Sitchin, Von Daniken, David Icke, all that kind of crew. But he seems so much less well known than a lot of them.
Yeah.
I didn't come across this guy until recently. And I've done how many episodes on ancient aliens?
Yeah. I mean, like, I like I said, I had to have heard this guy talk, like, but because of he was on Coast to Coast AM, with if you're telling me about the Hale Bop saga, which like they'll have, if you got a compelling story, Art Bell would have you on,
because like this guy does seem like a decent interview from what I've heard
Mm-hmm.
of him. He seems pretty charismatic and can string his thoughts together in a pretty pleasing way, you know?
Sure. Yeah. It's like, I do think though that you're sort of like, you're taking a lot of things and accidentally, I don't know. It's weird. You can take a lot of things and funnel them into this like niche, right? Like take the ancient aliens idea and funnel it into this like new agey thing. And I feel like that can backfire. You know, like sometimes that shit works out super well where people really just buy into your bullshit. But then, I don't know, sometimes it backfires. Like one person where I feel like it's been backfiring, although she's like still so successful and still making money doing this shit, talking about this shit. But like Linda Moulton Howe, who like has come under fire multiple times for like just straight up giving out incorrect information. There was like that time where she tried to pass off a photo from like a photo as like being a real image, like photo taken of a gray alien, and it was like the cover of a video game that was like not even a totally unpopular video game. Like it was like a and like she's done stuff like that. She's had a couple like, but like for whatever reason with her, it's like people point it out and she'll still continue to I don't know, be successful doing that stuff. I don't know what the difference is. I mean, like, at least I guess with Linda Moulton House, she'll always like come up with like a counter of like, well, you know, maybe that photo was planted by somebody who wants to like discredit UFO researchers or whatever.
Mhm.
I don't know if
Oh,
this guy goes through those motions or whatever, but
he has said that the reason no one in the Hopi Nation will confirm
oh,
him
oh boy,
is because he is giving out secrets to the white man, so they're not
oh,
going to acknowledge his presence.
okay.
Um, yeah, like there is definitely that aspect where he has a lot of like reasons why things
Well, then I don't
didn't
know.
go.
I don't know what he's doing
Yeah,
wrong. He's doing something wrong. I mean, I guess
yeah.
not totally wrong. Like he's still around, right? Like to be
Hmm.
to be completely fair to him, being around at all is kind of a win in this world, I think.
Yeah.
But how successful it is, I don't know.
Now, I do like so okay. A thing that I don't think I've fully put out here, and I feel like I have to make known. So the second book of the Terra Papers at some point just basically becomes a chronology of uh the world from 250 AD all the way up through the JFK assassination.
Oh, God, okay. That's a lot of ground to cover.
Yeah, and it covers that in like I don't know 25 pages.
Sure,
And
that's quite the summary. I'd be
it,
curious
it
to read
hits the
that.
highlights, you know, and it's specifically mainly about like church fighting in like the like 1000 AD era, because it's very much about like once you get into book 2, book 1 is a lot about the T and the Aryan, and then once you get into the second book you're dealing with a lot of like the Syrians and the Anunnaki and like those types of people more, because you're on the actual Earth. But yeah, so it's dealing a lot with like the religious machinations throughout history that he reads as them kind of seeding humanity with these dark things and all that kind of stuff. So that's why he focuses a lot on religions. But like, yeah, it just kind of goes up through. There was supposedly this like kind of coup where a like I think Syrian backed takeover attempt happened with the lizards in like around the time like in the 1930s or 40s maybe, 1941, is kind of around Pearl Harbor times. That's when all this stuff was happening. Like that whole thing was supposedly like a coup in the like alien background government community, because that ended with the mafia CIA faction like rising and taking over. Fuck, like it's kind of a wild history. If you're ever like just want something ridiculous to read, it's not a like a
That
hard
does
read.
sound pretty jam packed with stuff I like.
Especially all of that happens in like 2 pages. It is
Wow.
breakneck paced. Yeah, and it's free. So it's on archive.org, also on Kindle Unlimited. Don't buy it. It's $10, but it's free everywhere online. Um but yeah, it literally ends because it ends with the JFK assassination, which I guess is as good a place to end it as anywhere else. Uh
Yeah.
because it like at least like fits with the timeline. So it has to be after, because like it in the book it straight up references the date of 1968. So I understand that the supposed version he submitted for as a scholarly thesis isn't the same version as this because of the Death Star and all of these things. And he even has said there were some revisions. He had some like previous works that had parts of this stuff in it and everything. There's one called the Star Warriors papers, I think. Um, but they were all kind of he kind of just they were revisions of each other. So I'm assuming that he just like the Terra Papers was his kind of final treatise on the subject, and he finally published it and everything. But it just is. I still don't fully understand the goddamn timeline of this book, and it's kind of infuriating to me.
You know, maybe that's a question that somebody's got to ask the Star Warrior himself,
Yeah,
and
maybe I
get
gotta
a see if
find
we can
this
get a
digit.
maybe we could
Wait,
email him and
I
be
think I straight up have. I think his phone number is on a thing
oh, let's
on
give him a call.
Biblioteca. So I think I have at least one phone number for this man.
Perfect.
Um, don't go looking for that. I don't want this man to start getting like a bunch of weird phone calls and texts because of our podcast.
I don't think that we got listeners like that, but in case we do, let's just say we don't endorse that. But we should give him a call ourselves to get a timeline to see if he can can like lay it out for us.
Maybe he would maybe we can be part of his kind of reascension into the public sphere.
Sure.
Now we'll get him on the show.
Yeah, let's really get this guy platformed again.
Oh man, yeah. So I don't think this guy even has like a Wikipedia page.
Who needs a Wikipedia page when you have a website like this?
I know. I'm kind of baffled at what level this man is at, because he gets mentioned in stuff and like referenced in the UFO, and people in the UFO community reference him in a way that then doesn't get represented by the rest of the internet. I can't fully wrap my head around what this guy's life would be like, you know?
I'm sorry. I cannot get over this website. Like, it's genuinely incredible just how like I learned cursory HTML in 2003. This is like the fact that it's just these series of links that each button. Let me just double check, because I'm very curious now. I want to like inspect the elements.
You're gonna inspect elements.
Yeah, let's take a look here. Inspect source.
We need to do a fucking bar rescue, but for conspiracy websites. Just like email people and say we have a YouTube
that.
show. We're gonna fix up your website.
You know, I would love to do that. I do believe that what is happening here is he is literally just hover the element. Oh my god, it's so bad.
I think I could have made that website back in high school in Dreamweaver.
Yeah, I mean, he's literally just like linking to the next thing. It's super fucked up. He needs some help, I think, and I'd be willing to help him for a fee.
It makes findings, like, I tried to work around it by just searching stuff on Google and like finding links. Like, I was trying to find a biography page or like a bibliography page on his website. Every link that you get to his website just like takes you back to one of like two places. It's really fucking annoying.
Is there like how, like, okay, there's levels to which I'm willing to sort of compromise my morals to get paid to do work.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, I don't have any interest in working for Raytheon.
No.
And that's been a thing that's like popped up on my LinkedIn, which, yes, I have to use LinkedIn, and that sucks in its own way. But I don't want to work for, a company like that. But how low is it on the moral scale here to hit up a fraudster, quite possibly man faking his heritage to claim to be like a Native American shaman UFO guy? Like, how low is that for me to be like, look, I'll pay me and I'll clean your website up, make it navigable.
Look, I think it would be in the public service, at least for me trying to get information off this fucking website.
That's kind of how I'm feeling. Like, look, $10, Robert, and I will point you to a good tutorial on at least pagination. So
look, let's go fund me this guy a Squarespace.
Seriously, yeah.
Oh my god, I almost forgot one of the fucking best things I found when looking up this topic. All right. So Kyle, you know how sometimes you just see something, and it's just instant joy.
Nile, I'm always seeing shit, but I know what you're talking about.
I was so deep trying to find any other source for this man that I ended up clicking on a weird YouTube link on a DuckDuckGo search that for some reason referenced the man Robert Morningsky in the book Terra Papers, but it was the trailer for the Wachowski sisters movie Jupiter Ascending.
What the fuck?
So that was my reaction, because underneath this random YouTube playlist of this that uploads movie trailers, it just said directed by the Wachowski sisters, based on the book The Terra Papers by Robert Morningsky.
Wait, what?
Yeah. So I did some fucking searching,
Okay.
and the only thing that I could really find along this line, other than that, the YouTube channel I believe was called Cineclips. And on if you go back to their postings in 2014 or find their posting of the Jupiter Ascending trailer, you'll find what I'm talking about. But then, as I was searching, I found this other website called Psychic Focus, run by someone who calls herself Focus Lynn, from 2014. Turns out there was a stir in the Robert Morningsky fandom when Jupiter Ascending trailer was released in 2014 because they were under the impression that the verbiage used in the trailer for this movie sounds a lot like the stories of Robert Morningsky and the various warring factions of his galactic civilization. Now, this was based on just the trailer. If you watch the actual movie, it's not. It isn't. But I can see, like, it has kind of an ancient alien-esque kind of galactic civilization thing going on in it. So like I get why it got brought up in this. Like I understand why someone asked this, but the joy I had here was this was on this website. This person is like a channeler. She is does a lot of psychic readings and kind of channels things and has predictions and all of that kind of stuff that you find on these kind of websites. And someone sent in this question. I have read the Terra Papers by Robert Morningsky and the Secret History of Earth. This information was provided in the early 70s. This morning, I saw a movie trailer for a new movie called Jupiter Ascending, and luckily they provide a link to the trailer. This movie states, "We were seeded by another race. We are royalty. We only need to claim our place. We are assisted by a warrior race of dogs," which in this case, I'm assuming they're relating to the Aryan civilization, because there was a dog race later on. There was a dog race that was like a subsection of, I think they had ties to the Anunnaki. Like, it gets fucking weird, folks. Like, there's alien races that I really got to do some more research on in this thing and see if anyone else has any thoughts about them, because they might end up being alien episodes. But basically, this person is asking what the correlation is between Jupiter Ascending and the Terra
Sure,
Papers.
I have the same question. Yeah, it does sound like somebody somewhere got confused. Maybe.
They just saw a movie, a sci-fi movie about galactic civilizations, and were like, ooh, it must be Robert Morningsky. But Scam Likely is calling me. Oh.
Put them on. Put them on and
No.
put the mic in front of the phone and see what they have to say.
Nah.
Okay, fine.
Fuck Scam Likely. No, I would have. That would have been content anyway. Yeah, so it seems like this person just someone asked a random psychic channeler in like 2013 or 2014 about Jupiter Ascending and its relation to the Robert Morningsky works, and she answers. The answer is kind of nonsense. It's my focus first goes to Robert Morningsky. There is so much truth and it resonates with me, as if he has fluid thought and honestly behind his papers. I do see his grandfather had a glimpse as to the dynamics of space and how ETs interacted, and that information was later gifted to Robert. As I focus on his accuracy, how accurate was his information, I get an image. Thanks for explaining what accuracy was. I was really lost at that. I get an image of an ET shaking his head up and down, and I get a mental message of, yes, he is pretty accurate. So this person, when asked about the movie Jupiter Ascending,
made up a bunch of shit.
Decided to check with their alien being, which there's a fucking fun little drop on that one here in a second, and ask what they think of Robert Morningsky, and we're told he's pretty accurate. They then ask, why pretty accurate? What does pretty mean? And he talks a little bit more about, or she talks a little bit more about, just more gobbledygook. It's absolute nonsense, but eventually you get this reveal that the alien being that she's like talking to in the high whatever, like at least like fifth dimensional kind of, like we're talking the dense, this is 5D density kind of shit got right here. But the being that she is like talking to is basically Chewbacca.
Uh, what do you mean basically? You're a Chewbacca or you're not? You're from Kashyyyk, you're Wookiee or you're not?
I like someone straight up in her comments asks, "Hey, Chewbacca?" And she basically is just like, not exactly, but the being kind of looks like that, and that's it. Like it just is like,
okay,
yeah, kind of, and that's all the explanation she gives.
Great, perfect.
So Chewbacca says Robert Morningsky is pretty accurate. So
shouts out to Chewbacca.
Specifically because Robert Morningsky writes about the fucking Death Star, I think Chewbacca knows what he's talking about. So on that note, I think we all have to understand that Robert Morningsky
endorsed by the Wookiees.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Fucking out
That's
there.
how you know he's telling the truth.
Yeah.
The Hopi Indians, the Hopi tribe will not recognize him, but a fictional furry alien will.
He should have known, like, he should have turned to the Star Wars fandom instead of the fucking, like, UFO community. He might have had better luck in that time period.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So, yeah, that's like there's probably more I can do on this guy eventually and his papers and stuff, but the mystery of who this man is kind of drew me in, and I was like, it just was,
I kind of want to go back and listen to his Hail Bop thing so I can, like, kind of get an impression of the guy. You've got me curious.
Yeah. They play the clip, if you don't want to find it, This Saucer Life.
Podcast I've listened to that.
They have an episode on Robert Morningsky that includes clips of him on Art Bell.
Nice.
So you can find some stuff of that there. Yeah. Anyway, you want to do a big question?
Sounds good to me.
All right, Kyle.
Yes.
What is the most blatant piece of pop culture that you think you could get away with sneaking into your own grand conspiracy theory? Just you're going to take the entirety of the show?
Here's the thing, though. Evangelion is already pulling pieces of, like, ancient aliens lore anyways.
Mm-hmm.
So I could, like, and it's also Bible stuff. So I sprinkle some Bible, I sprinkle some ancient aliens, and then nobody fucking is the wiser. But
yeah, because everyone's gonna think it's Ultraman.
Well, sure. Well, but that's that. It was Ultraman inspired that as well. So
I know.
Look, maybe I'll use maybe my main character will be named Ray or something, or maybe the Spear of Longinus will play a big part in my particular theory. But Evangelion is so rife with that shit, like ancient aliens, biblical conspiracy shit, that I could easily incorporate it without anybody, unless they're already an Evangelion fan. Like, people would just like, oh yeah, this is typical, ancient alien stuff. This is exactly what people.
What do you think that Venn diagram looks like? Ancient aliens and Evangelion fans?
Probably not as many as
there's some overlap.
There's definitely overlap, but I don't think it's. I don't know. Like, I feel like
I don't think it's a lot, but I think
there probably is. But I feel like, given how much anime there is and how little time there is to watch anime in, people who are into anime and are not wasting their time with ancient aliens,
because honestly, Ancient Aliens has about as many episodes as One Piece is at this moment.
So
which you got to choose one or the other.
It's one or the other. Like, you can't you either are gonna go for a journey with the One Piece, or you're gonna fucking Gregor, I always forget his name, Big Hair Man, you're gonna be obsessed with his crazy arc on ancient aliens. So pick one.
This unfortunately, I should have known that that's what you were going to pick, but I didn't think about that. I had this whole thing. I found out this week that in the currently airing that I haven't gotten to watch
Kamen
yet,
Rider.
Kamen Rider series,
I knew it.
There's one part of the transformation is literally part of the current era is there are these like phrases that pop up and stuff. It's this whole thing in the transformations, but one of them is literally as above, so below right now. So you
Oh my
have all
God.
these toku people on Twitter who are like, there are people that like aren't watching Gotchard but are in the community and are like, wait, why are people referencing Crowley all of it? Like, why are people like referencing like
Uh,
Levian Satanism
that's
now or
so
whatever the fuck?
funny.
Oh no, it's just Kamen Rider Gotchard.
I mean, just Japan loves to take weird esoterica, like Western esoterica and stuff, and just reincorporate it in zany ways into their stuff. And I really love that. You better fucking believe one of my favorite images in all of anime is a big godlike being crucified on like underground, and they're in the chamber of Guff, and there's the Marduk report and all that shit. And I barely know Bible shit, but I know
Marduk.
I know.
Haha.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I know the
Yeah.
Bible shit through Evangelion mostly. So, I love when they take that stuff. And yeah, Ultraman, perfect example. So that's the good shit. I love that, and I love to hear that Kamen Rider's doing the same thing. Like, that's always fun, in my opinion.
Yeah, confusing everyone with
Oh yeah,
references. I was gonna like I should have known you were into Evan Gunn because what my thing was gonna be is I was going to sneak henshin transformation poses
sure.
into things. So like you're gonna have aliens like when they're transform between their alien
They do a
and, like, human
henshin.
form. They do a full like pose and like arm motion transition thing.
Yeah,
But
I love that.
I think I could get away with.
I
That
think
one.
you could.
I think I could mask it enough.
I think you could.
know?
There's enough people who would just have no fucking clue that
Like,
that your reptilian is doing henshin a go go, baby.
What do you think having like a full magical girl transformation would do? Like having to read about that would do to the common like conspiratorial mind. You know, like what do you think that dealing with that would do?
Don't know. I feel like, that's sort of like if you're saying that you're gonna make this like origin point for the idea of magical girl transformations in alien and conspiracy stuff, then naturally down the line they gotta kind of like deconstruct that, pull a Madoka Magica type thing.
Okay.
Just like you start out with your Sailor Moons or whatever. I actually don't know. I'm sure there's plenty of stuff before Sailor Moon, but yeah, you end up with
The origin of that transformation type stuff is Kamen Rider.
Is it really?
Yep.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. So yeah, that would be very fun. I like that idea, and I think that but I think it would just be incorporated. Like I don't think here's the thing, like starseeds are all the time talking about transformation, although it never appears to be like a physical thing where you dance around and you become a silhouette that's filled with starlight before your mini skirt and like whatever top appear on top of you. But maybe that's something that should be happening in that community.
I think it's time. I think it's time to get alien transformation shit going on.
I just want to say for listeners out there who are not nerds, go ahead, Google anime, and then come back, I don't know, in another year or two.
Click the first link, whatever it is.
Whatever it is.
You'll get it. It'll be there.
And
It's probably, if it's on Google, it's going to be some sponsored bullshit. You're going to end up on like probably
Go to
Crunchyroll.
DuckDuckGo. Okay, sorry, let me rephrase that. DuckDuckGo anime.
Yeah.
And look around a little bit. And you'll figure it out.
I'm very curious. I'm going to end the episode by Googling, on DuckDuckGo, searching anime and seeing what the first link is. Let's see. Watch anime online on Anime
Planet.
Yeah.
All right. So that'll
go
at
there.
least get you started.
Hit browse all anime and start at the first one and work your way through.
Now I got to know what the first one is. So anime, browse all anime. First one, The Apothecary Diaries. Never heard of it, but it's probably great. Toho Animation, so that's solid.
Okay.
Let's give it a shot. Go ahead and, hey, official endorsement, check out The Apothecary Diaries.
All right.
Cool.
That we got to take care of some business.
Yeah.
If you want to follow us on social media, we're on Twitter at IGW Podcast.
You can follow us on Facebook.com/ItGetsWeirdPodcast.
And we're on all your favorite podcatchers from Google Play to Apple Podcasts to Spotify. If you listen to podcasts somewhere, look up It Gets Weird, and we're probably there.
Twitch.tv/ItGetsWeird. Play some video games with us, why don't you? Or rather, watch us do it, I should say. Email us at itgetsweirdpodcast@gmail.com. We love getting your emails, and sometimes we'll read them on the show. Patreon.com/itgetsweird. Look, I don't know why I start it like that every time.
It's
Check it out.
very antagonistic.
I know. $2 tier at patreon.com/itgetsweird gets you access to It Gets Weird TV, where we every other week discuss an episode of a strange TV show. Right now we're watching X-Files season 2, and then you get to vote on what our next season will be. And then at the $5 tier, you get another bonus show that comes in the off weeks of It Gets Weird TV. Sometimes it's me, sometimes it's Nile, sometimes we watch a movie. All kinds of stuff goes up there. Whether you donate to the $2 tier or the $5 tier, you get access to the main show 2 days early on Friday instead of Sunday, and you get access to the Discord chat where we're all hanging out talking about our favorite anime. And Bigfoot and stuff too.
Yeah.
But let's be real, anime's a big
Look,
deal.
we have our podcast appeals to a type of person. About 60% of them like anime. You know,
That
it
is
makes
very
sense.
true. That's very true. And we have a $1 tier. You don't get anything out of it. You're just saying, hey, here's $1. Thanks for doing what you do. Keep it going. If you can't donate, please tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell your congressman all about It Gets Weird podcast.
All right. Thank you all for listening. This has been It Gets Weird, and I've been Niall.
And I'm Kyle signing out.